Lyman, thank you very much for being here. Every year I have the pleasure to have you here in New York. You lead some sessions, you bring your expertise as well, and I thought that would be great for us to pick your brain to see if you help the foreign investors that are watching this, because this goes all over the world, to understand what's going on now in Latin America, especially in Mexico, I would say, with so much uncertainty that Trump brought to the markets. There were some fears that maybe Mexico would really suffer. When you look at the numbers and the figures, maybe it was not that bad. What would you say about that?
Well, look at things at a macroscopic level. We're running a marathon. We've been running a marathon in Mexico for 30 years since the original NAFTA was approved. And so, yeah, there's some stumbles, there's some changes, maybe changing directions, maybe changing a little bit of priorities, but the marathon's still there. The absolute macroscopic, the macroeconomic fundamentals are still there. Uh, Nobody's going to change the location of Mexico to the U.S. Nobody's going to change the differential between employment costs between the U.S. and Mexico. And those are the two biggest factors that Mexico's got in favor for it. So are there political events? Are there political influences that are changing? Yeah, but those change every 2 to 4, 8 years, whatever. But the overall fundamentals are constant. And they're going to continue being constant no matter who's in office.
Very interesting. When you look at the opportunities in Mexico and other countries in Latin America, is there any specific asset class that you think that will perform better in the next few months or couple of years? Some say that industrial logistics are doing very well with nearshoring. I heard somebody saying yesterday, I won't name him, but he said, I'm concerned about what's going on in the nearshoring. What's your take on that?
First of all, remember, industrial is not just logistics, but manufacturing.
Correct.
Mexico is really the manufacturing hub for the U.S. and much of the Americas. And you go back to look at what nearshoring is. It's an evolution of the same thing that we've had for years and years and years, which is the manufacturing and the assembly of things in Mexico and then exported to the U.S. Yeah, there's been some changes. Yeah, for instance, the inflow of users from China has changed a little bit. And for many years, China was absolutely, 30, 40% of our new business coming in for certain parts of Mexico. Now that's died down a little bit, and I think we're going to go through some evolution of who those users are. But it's still there. It's still present. We talked about other asset types. Yeah, I think industrial is going to continue being the most important asset type in Mexico, and not just logistics and manufacturing. But what's really interesting is post-pandemic, we've seen the office market really recover. And I think it's recovered in a very positive way, in a way that a lot of us, I won't say was surprised, but we're very pleased to see it's come back. And, home office was interesting. It was a unique, and home office will still have its part, but nothing gets away from the fact that I'm going to the office today. I'm going to see my compañeros, my work buddies. We're going to be able to collaborate. You can't get rid of that, and we're seeing that in Mexico come back, just like we're seeing that in all over the world. And so, as much as everything changes, everything goes back to the same.
And when it comes to office market, there are a lot of changes happening as well in the product itself, right? The way people think about office is not the same that was
That's
10
right.
years ago. What are the highlights that you could bring to us to give us more examples about what's the demand looking like for the future office space?
Well, office has become, think about the office as a new retail. It's placemaking. It's creating a place where people want to be. And this is not a criticism or a comment on younger generations, younger than I, but we're attracting the workforce back into the workplace. We're making the workplace interesting. It's not just cubicles in a row. It's not just going in and sitting in a meeting room. You've got to have something there to bring them in and draw them in and make it interesting and make that interaction, make those casual collisions. Same thing we've talked about before, before the pandemic, et cetera, but now it's another evolution because it's like I said, it's a new retail. It's a new experience, and it may not be an all-day experience, but it's certainly an experience to bring people in and keep them there so they can do their business and then go out to other places.
Currently, we have a situation of uncertainty in the world, so investors they like to play safe. I understand that, but I like to think that things will change. And when it comes to seeking higher returns, they will need to go to emerging markets again, the global investors. China is not being considered by many players because of the past issues. Russia is out of the picture. South Africa with a lot of challenges as well. India is doing well. But I see Latin America and especially Mexico because of all the elements you mentioned as a very a big potential as soon as we have a little bit of stability in the world. Now, foreign investors are still looking, but I believe that will increase with time. So with that in mind, I believe that some people will be watching this interview here, considering one day in the midterm or maybe in the next year or so, to start looking to Mexico. What is the key lesson they need to do when it comes to considering deploying capital in Mexico? A foreign investors coming from London or from the New York, Miami, or Dubai, if he wants to deploy capital in Mexico, what's the main thing he needs to do to get it right?
It's a great question. And you talked about a pause in investment, a pause in decision making. There's a little bit, but it's more of a comparative pause to what we've been experiencing for the last 3-4 years. Remember, for the last 3-4 years, we've been operating and the real estate market has been really an 11 out of 10. It's been outstanding. It's been absolutely a market that is, I'm not going to say overheated, but it's been running at a very fast speed. In the first quarter of this year, we've returned to what we remember in 2019. 2019 in Mexico was a good, powerful year. It was a record year for many of us, and it was a very positive approach. So we've returned to a 2019 level of absorption, industrial absorption. It's positive, it's growth, but it's not the exponential growth that we saw in 2023, 24,
see.
et cetera. So are we paused? No, it's just slowed down and still very positive. And exactly what I mentioned before, those dynamics, the reason for companies to come back to us in Mexico and keep looking are still there. Now what's happening? We talked a little bit about the Chinese users. The actual Chinese nationals that are coming into Mexico slowed down a little bit, hasn't stopped. But what we are seeing is many of the US and foreign operators that had established in China, and now because of the uncertainty that's going on in China, they're saying, you know what, maybe I'll shutter that factory, or maybe I'll shutter that plant, or maybe I'll reduce operations significantly, but I still need to take up that capacity, still need to bring it somewhere. And so Mexico's been a great receptor of that. So that's what the nearshoring still has a future, but who's being part of that nearshoring has changed a little bit. And where else they're going too is they're saying, okay, well, Mexico's a great destination, but we're also seeing people coming in and looking into Colombia, into Costa Rica, and other places where labor is still comparatively much cheaper, where there's stability, economic stability, and it's in the same hemisphere, the same time zone, and it's relatively close to US markets. That's especially true for the service industries that are, for instance, call centers, data centers, et cetera, that are also locating in Central America because there is that ability to stay in the same time zone, the ease of operation.
Very interesting. Lyman, thank you very much for our conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you.